Well, hello my ladies, this is Kate Cherry, of course, Healthy on Purpose, and this is our 5th week of our Zoom calls. So today what we're talking about is a ketogenic lifestyle, and this is something that is really close to my heart. This is the style of eating, or this kind of lifestyle has helped me personally shed quite a lot of weight when I needed to 5-6 years ago, and so I really wanted to speak to you about this. Now, this is something that you do not necessarily have to go for, all right? This is something for you to consider, and if you feel that you would like to give it a go, I would say sit down, pray about it, and then embark on the keto journey. Again, you will, of course, see the benefits of your healthy ways, of your healthy eating, even if you do not do keto, even if you don't go strict keto or even cyclic keto. However, if you are feeling a little bit, I don't want to say disappointed, but if you're feeling that you would like your results to manifest themselves in a bit more speedier way, then I would say try keto. Go keto for 2-3 weeks and see how it is agreeing with your body, see how you are able to maintain it, and see whether it's enjoyable for you. And if it is, then I would recommend that you try to do it for as long as you can. And it doesn't need to be, as I said, a strict keto. It can be a cyclic keto. You can have a day off or 2 days off and then be a keto for 5 days. That's called cyclic keto. You can include 1 day of fasting if that is what's going to be suitable for you, and then 1 day off, which is something that definitely can be beneficial. So I leave this totally entirely up to you. This is a coaching video, if you like, or this is a coaching session where I will lay down all the details about ketogenic lifestyle, its benefits, how you do it, how you measure it, and all that. And then it is entirely up to you whether you want to do it or not. So, as I said, think about it, consider it, and then let me know whether you would like to do this, okay? And I will support you. If you want to maintain the lifestyle and a way of eating that you have been doing up to now, which is healthy, but not necessarily ketogenic, it is healthy, low carb, and ideally sugar and gluten-free, then continue with that. All right, so this is entirely up to you. The information that I will share with you today is going to be beneficial if you decide that you want to do the ketogenic lifestyle. So, I suppose we can sink right in. Let me have a drink of my functional water. And we can then kickstart. So, why your current lifestyle, or why current standard Western diet that so many practice or so many have applied is most definitely health damaging? The reason for this is because it is truly overburdening and harmful for our physical body. There is no doubt about it. There is a scientific research that supports it, and we now know that standard Western diet, which is really truly high in carbohydrates, a macronutrient, one of the macronutrients, which is a carbohydrate, and that is extremely damaging and ravaging even for our body. Why? Well, first and foremost, it causes quite significant and quite sudden spikes and crashes. And when I'm saying spikes and crashes, it's in 3 different areas. It's in blood sugar level, it's in brain activity, and then it's in moods, so our hormones. All right, and that is extremely bad news for our health, these spikes and crashes, because they ravage our body. When we have the spike reaction, that's when our blood sugar levels shoot up. We then are forced to produce quite a lot of insulin, which is a fat storage hormone. It's also a pro-inflammatory hormone, and it is the most dominant hormone. So too much of it in our system causes quite a lot of havoc in our hormonal balance, in our moods, of course, that is affected badly. And then, of course, because its job is to take care of the blood sugar levels in our blood. So it needs to draw it out of our blood, otherwise it would kill us. Sugar is toxic to us. It draws it out of our blood, and then it distributes it into different cells all around our body. all right? But too much of it actually causes quite a lot of harm, quite a lot of damage. And so we don't want too much of insulin in our body. We don't want too much of glucose in our blood. But standard Western diet, that's exactly what it does, all right? And so what other health effects have this kind of lifestyle got on our body? Well, as I already mentioned, it's the spikes and crashes in blood sugar levels, in mood levels, and in energy levels. Then it's insulin resistance, something called insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes too. And you might not think that, oh, this is an issue that affects me, but insulin resistance is manifested in a few different ways, or you can see it in a few different symptoms. And one of those symptoms is weight gain. So if you gain weight, that means that your insulin is struggling to take care of all that glucose and all the carbohydrates that come into your body. So this is something to think about. And then, of course, because of the insulin being highly pro-inflammatory, what happens is that our body kind of struggles to process all that insulin, and it creates internal inflammation. So insulin is a very, very pro-inflammatory hormone. It creates internal inflammation. And latest research now shows that internal inflammation, so the inflammation within our body, chronic inflammation, which doesn't get switched off, creates chronic illness or causes chronic illness. It's an illness that is chronic, that is there all the time, that doesn't go away, not like a flu or a cold that you get over, but chronic inflammation causes chronic illness, which stays. Okay, so standard Western diet is a really bad news for our health, and so we should all strive to change it, or to upgrade it, or to improve it into a low carbohydrate way of eating. All right, now to take it a bit higher, or a notch higher, we are going to talk about ketogenic lifestyle, as I already said, which is a low carbohydrate way of eating, which brings the level of carbohydrates to about 20 to 30 to 40. Some are even able to remain in ketosis with 50 grams of carbohydrates, intake of carbohydrates per day, and of course limitation of sugar. So we completely eliminate incoming sugar. Now, when I say sugar, I mean any sugar that you can think of. We know that sugar has got about 80 names. I'm talking about dextrose, maltodextrin, saccharose, fructose, even lactose, which is a milk sugar. I am talking about honey, molasses, high fructose corn syrup, golden syrup. There are so many different names for sugar, and so we have to really kind of watch it on a ketogenic lifestyle, that we are actively staying away from the sugar. Because what happens is, you see, when the sugar comes in, it is converted into glucose, and it creates that reaction where the insulin is excreted and is needed. And so on ketogenic lifestyle, what happens is that our body swaps over, or switches over, into a state called ketosis. And what happens in ketosis is, instead of insulin, which would normally be required when we consume high amounts of carbohydrates and sugar, we do not need so much insulin, or we don't need almost any insulin, because there is no sugar coming in. And so our body looks for a different source of energy. As you know, or as you might know, we can run on two different fuels, two different types of energy. One is carbohydrates, and another one is fats. So we have got this secondary metabolic functioning, if you like, and that is working on fats. It literally uses our stored fat, so our body fat, plus the dietary fat, the fat that we eat, to convert it into energy. So, and it's a completely, totally natural way to be for our body. In the past, this kind of switch over, if you like, or this secondary metabolism has saved us from dying in times of famine and in times of hunger. So when there were not sufficient levels of carbohydrates coming in, our body switched over. It takes about 2 to 3 days for this switch over to happen. Our bodies quite naturally switched over into the state of ketosis. And what happened is that instead of insulin, they started producing ketones. And ketones were responsible for using the stored energy levels, the stored fat, which they converted into energy. All right. So this is, in simple English, this is the process. Now, what I want to really stress and what I want to really put across to you is that our organs, especially our brain, love this type of energy. It's clean, it's energizing, it's not overburdening or harmful, and it does not cause spikes and crashes in our energy levels and in our mood levels and in our hormonal health. Why? Well, if I had your brain on my hand here, and if I would shake my hand, it would wobble. It would wobble because it's made out of cholesterol. So the main building agent inside of our brain is cholesterol. It's made out of fat. It's a fat mass, a big fat mass. I think it's over 75% actually that our brain is just cholesterol. All right. And for its optimal function, it needs cholesterol. It needs fat. We now know, and the latest research supports this, that to have a healthy brain, we should be consuming healthy fats, right? Olive oils, avocados. Coconut oil is extremely, extremely healthy for our brain. So they even go as far, the latest research, to say that some of the degenerative brain diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and dementia can be bettered, can be improved by consuming healthy fats. A spoonful, 2 spoonfuls of coconut oil apparently can do the job. So this is extremely, extremely revolutionary if you think about it. So we need good fats, okay? And so that is why the ketogenic lifestyle is so healthy for our body, because our brain literally thrives on it. It is like the cleanest fuel that you can imagine. It is like high octane fuel that comes into the body, and body can utilize it beautifully and perfectly. No spikes and crashes, just a beautiful balanced energy levels and brain levels and blood sugar levels. All right, so exactly the opposite of the carbohydrate lifestyle. All right, and when we eat carbohydrates, we are in the fat storage mode because of the insulin. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. All right, its job is to deal with the glucose first and foremost, but then whatever glucose doesn't get used, it is responsible for storing it for later use. Okay, padding us, literally padding us with fat molecules for later use. But do we ever use it later on? Not really, because our energy output is lower than the intake. All right. So on a fat in the ketosis or on a ketogenic lifestyle, we are not in a fat storage mode, but we are in a fat burning mode. And ladies, trust me when I say that that's exactly what you want. You want to be in a fat burning mode. You want everything that you've gathered, all the padding, all the stored energy, if you like, and it is stored up energy. You want to burn that. You want your body to tap into that and use it for your energy, for this clean fuel that you can be given. All right. So this is a wonderful, wonderful thing on the ketogenic lifestyle. Another thing that I will mention, ladies, is something called leptin. You might have heard of leptin. What leptin does, or the function of leptin, is it signals to our brain when we are full. So it signals to our brain, in other words, to stop eating. All right. Now, with high carbohydrate lifestyle and with sugar intake, with high sugar intake, this hormone is disabled. It is completely switched off. And so you can eat until you are full up to your eyeballs, and your brain does not get that signal that it needs to stop eating. And that is why it's so easy to overeat on a high carbohydrate lifestyle. And that is so easy for us to overeat, and then when we do that, we feel like we just totally want to go comatose, right? You feel so stuffed that you can't even move, and you get and you get that proverbial crash very shortly afterwards. Yes, you do get the euphoria-like feeling when you're eating it, and I can tell you why that is. Carbohydrates, and especially sugar, are addictive. They light up the reward parts of our brain which we associate with reward, right? So you feel euphoric. You feel this short euphoria-like effect, and you're feeling, oh, this is so good. You know, I just love this junk food, you know, that I'm eating. So it gives you that kind of high, you know, that gives you that spike, you know, and then shortly after you get the crash. And the crash episode is where oftentimes one can feel depressed, fatigue like never before, brain fog, and of course mood swings. Concentration goes out of the window because your brain is literally being ravaged by the crash stage. All right, so that is really, really something that, you know, we should think of when we're comparing the ketogenic lifestyle and the high carbohydrate standard Western lifestyle. All right. So I mentioned the leptin, and I mentioned the really ravaging effect of the standard Western kind of diet, and now I've also mentioned the benefits, or at least a few benefits, of a ketogenic lifestyle. So let's now move on to how do we actually get into this state of ketosis. All right. So once we've decided that we do want to try ketogenic lifestyle, how do we kind of process? How do we progress from there? All right. So we, as I said, need to ensure that we stop or eliminate sugars, any type of sugars. All right. So this, and high carbohydrates. Our level of carbohydrates, if you want your body to switch over into a ketosis, this is what you need to do. You eliminate sugars completely. No sugar can be ingested, so that there is no need for insulin. All right, our pancreas gets deserved time out. You then lower your carbohydrate intake to 20, 30 to 40 grams a day, and that is easily done if your diet has got a protein on its plate. Half of it is covered in leafy greens and vegetables, and then you've got a small section of fat, a good healthy fat, such as avocado, nuts, seeds, such as a sprinkle of olive oil, things like this. Even if you have a homemade almond bread. Almond is a nut, all right. Yes, it is slightly higher in carbs, but you can definitely enjoy a slice of almond bread, all right, if there is no added sugar, or if there is no added nothing else. Okay, just nuts and seeds, all right. And that is how you enter ketosis. So for 2-3 days, what happens is, why it takes those 2 to 3 days? Well, it's because our liver stores has got, or holds on, if you like, to like what's the word I'm looking for? Like additional glucose levels. It holds on to about 2-3 days worth of glucose. All right, and this is called glycogen. So our liver holds on to this. Okay, and then when you eliminate sugar and you lower your carb intake to 20, 30 to 40 grams a day, our liver taps into this glycogen and it uses it up. And it takes about 2 to 3 days for this glycogen to be depleted. All right, so now you've been eating a keto way for the last 3 days, and you have used up all your glycogen from your liver. Okay, you have got no glycogen used. That is the point where your body intelligently, completely naturally switches over into ketosis. It switches over into ketosis whereby it stops producing insulin and it starts producing something called ketone bodies, or ketones. All right, and these ketones are responsible for tapping into the fat reserves, and using that fat, stored fat, for the energy. It converts it into liver. The process happens in the liver. So liver produces ketones, and these are responsible, as I already said, for the conversion of the stored fat or the dietary fat, all right, into the energy. And that energy is the beautiful clean fuel for your body, with no spikes and crashes, with beautiful balanced energy levels, and your body just thrives. Ladies, if I can give you my personal experience from my time in ketosis, where I went from the standard Western diet into ketogenic lifestyle, and I stayed on it for 6, 7, 8 weeks solidly, I have never had such a clarity of mind. It was almost like my intuition became so profound that I knew what's going to happen in the next few minutes, as crazy as it sounds. I had energy levels like never before, and they were literally, they couldn't get depleted. So the constant energy levels. Can you imagine the times where your mind doesn't feel any fatigue, it doesn't feel any depression, it doesn't feel any brain fog, when your concentration is so spot on that you can just do things without any effort. This is how it is. This is really how ketosis feels. It feels like your brain has been switched on and it's getting a perfect fuel, and there is nothing that can conquer it. Literally, this is how it feels. And your body, you feel like you have got constant amount of energy. You know, there are no spikes and crashes. Like I said, we are so used to feeling crashy, you know, after eating high carb meals. And what we have to do, we have to then boost it, and that's usually done either with energy drink or with coffee or tea. So that caffeine intake is what we kind of crave. But imagine that your body could actually go completely, totally without any stimulants, just by being in ketosis. So it's really totally health revolutionary. But most of all, ladies, this is what I need to mention to you, because it's incredibly and extremely important, and such a wonderful news for your health, is that ketogenic lifestyle is anti-inflammatory. It decreases the inflammation within your body, and we all have some sort of inflammation within our body. You can be as healthy as you want, completely, totally healthy, but there will be an inflammation within your body, and it's because of the environment that we live in, okay? The things that we are surrounded with. We would literally have to lock ourselves in a little bubble and don't allow anything to come in contact with us if we wanted to avoid getting internal inflammation. And that is not to say that that's a chronic internal inflammation, but our environment, our current environment, is quite polluted. The air is polluted, the water can be polluted as well. The food has been hijacked and filled with all kinds of different chemicals and colorings and natural flavorings that we know have got nothing to do with nature. So it really, is difficult to even imagine that a clean body can exist in this environment, in today's environment. So ketogenic lifestyle is extremely anti-inflammatory, and it has got the power to take down the internal inflammation, to lower the internal inflammation. There are definitely a few reasons for that, but I would say possibly the most vocal one, or the most important one, is that if you think about it, all our cells are covered in a thin sheet of cholesterol. So our cells, our body cells, the outer layer is made out of cholesterol, okay? And you know what we need, what our immunity needs for it to work optimally? It needs cholesterol. It needs good fats, all right? So by eating the way we eat on ketogenic lifestyle, we are actually supporting our immunity. And by doing that, our immunity then heals any internal inflammation that it was not able to heal on a standard Western diet, all right? So I would say, if you think logically, if we look at it from the logical perspective, if one has got chronic illness or an illness that have been present for quite some time, the reason for this is quite likely the chronic internal inflammation within the body, in whatever